Okay, so today we're looking at exact values of circular functions. So up until this point, we have been really telling you in the question what the sine angle equals. So say we had an angle and we were talking about this point, and sometimes we've said, all right, well, sine theta equals, and whatever, we've said 0.42. So we've actually told you what sine angle is. For example, but if I'd asked you to say, for example, if I said, oh, what's sine 20 degrees, so that you could work out the y value up at this point, well, you'd have to pop into your calculator sine 20 degrees and press enter and get the value so that you would know what the y value is. So we have to know some of these off by heart, and this is where we're going to draw up a table to show you the exact values of these, because we know once we know values in the first quadrant, remember from the last lesson, we can work out what the values are in the second, third and fourth, because remember cast. Okay, so we're going to look at these exact values. So hold on a moment. Okay, so the first exact value we're going to look at is when the line has gone 0 degrees. So we're out here. So this one's a bit easy because we can see what's the sine value, which is the y value at this point, and we know that's 0. So we can write 0. And we can see the cosine of that angle, which is the x value. And we know because it's a unit circle, that's at 1. And because tan is equal to sine over cosine, so for this one we've got 0 over 1, so that is 0 for this one. Okay, so the next one is maybe not so easy, because we are saying now that we are going up at an angle of pi on 6, or that's the equivalent to 30 degrees. So we've moved up pi on 6. So if you've moved up pi on 6 and you get to this value, if you press sine pi on 6 into your calculator, you will see that that equals a half. Okay, if you press cos pi on 6, you'll notice that you get an exact value of 3 over 2. And if you press tan pi on 6, it equals 1 over square root 3. Okay, so we can pop them into our exact values table, which we're going to have to learn off by heart. So we could say sine pi on 6 or sine 30. They're the same thing, which means you need to remember these off by heart. And we pop all these in there like that. So that's our first one. Now, if we've moved up pi on 4 or a quarter, which is 45 degrees, if you plug that into your calculator, you would get it equals sine pi on 4 equals 1 over square root 2, or that can be written as 2 over 2, because if you rationalized this fraction. So it could be written in either way, and you can remember it as either one. And cos theta at 45 is actually the same value as well, because you've gone up exactly halfway on the distance. So that one is the same. And tan theta at this point is 1, because it's the same thing. Okay, if we have pi on a third or 60 degrees, we'll find that sine pi on a third is 3 on 2. Cos pi on 3 is a half, and tan pi on 3 is square root 3. And then if we do pi on 2, sine pi on 2 is 1, which we know is up here on our unit circle. So pi on 2 is 1, cos is 0, and tan is undefined. So if we learn all these off by heart, we obviously, which if they're going to use these ones, we can get the answers in all the quadrants now because we know of the rules before. Okay, on the next page, I'm going to show you a method that we can use with our hand to help remember all these, because obviously it is a bit confusing. You do have a fair few there to remember. So there's this hand trick, so I'll show you on the next page. Okay, this is the hand method in remembering your exact values. So we're going to use our left hand. Mainly we'd have to swap it if we're using our right, but the reason we're choosing our left hand is because most of us are right-handed, so we'd have our pencil in our right hand, so it's easier to look at our left hand. So looking at your left hand palm, so I've put my left hand palm here, what we're going to do is you label your fingers, all those 5 angles that we need to know the exact values of. So I'm going to label up my palm here. So your thumb is 0 degrees, your pointer is 30 degrees, your index finger is 45 degrees. So we're going up in order, and ring finger 60 and little pinky is 90. So you need to remember all the radians as well. So you need to remember 30 is the same as pi on 6, or 45 is the same as pi on 4, and 60 is pi on 3, and 90 is pi on 2. So just remember that pi is equal to 1 radian, and we know, and pi is equal to 180 degrees. So if you need to work it out, so if you've got 90, you've got half of pi, just in case you need to work that out. Okay, so then we have a look down here. If you have a look, we've got the first one. The first rule here is if you're trying to find sine of an angle, what it's equal to, what you do is you bring down the finger that the angle you're talking about. So see in this first column, I'm talking about 0 degrees. So what I'm going to do is bring my thumb in. Okay, so you can see that I've brought the 0 degrees finger in because that's what I want to find. Now the rule tells me that the answer to this is the square root of the left. So what fingers have I got to the left of the one I brought in? I've got nothing. So sine 0 degrees must equal, there's no fingers to my left, over 2, because that's what the rule says here to do. So therefore that equals 0, and we get that answer up here. So if we go to look at cosine, if we're doing cosine 0 degrees, so I would still have the same finger turned in, but this time it's equal to the square root of the fingers to the right. So because of the one turned in, so because I have 4 fingers to the right, it would be square root of 4 over 2. And if you do the square root of 4, that's equal to 2. So 2 over 2 equals 1. And if you look up in the exact values, that's what it is equal to. Now for tan, if you know sine and cosine, you can work out tan, because once again we know that tan's equal to sine theta over cosine theta. So you just simply go 0 over 1 is 0. Or the other way to work out tan is you just go the square root of the left over the right. So in this example, because I've got here, to the left I have 0 fingers, and to the right I've got 4, square root of 4. So square root, so you can see it ends up being 0 anyway. I'll do a couple more examples with using the fingers on the next page. Okay, here I'm going to use the exact values to find the values of sine angle and cosine and tan for 30 degrees. So if you look at 0, now I've turned down the 30 degrees, or the pi on 6. That's the one, because remember we go up in order for our fingers. So because I'm trying to find, I want to know what sine 30 degrees equals, I'm going to use the finger trick. Now remember, sine is always the square root of the left over 2. So I've got 1 finger to the left, so I would say equals square root of 1 over 2. And the square root of 1 over 2 is, the square root of 1 is 1, so we get a half. So if you go back to your table of values, we should see that. So I just put the table of values down the bottom corner so we can check, and I can see that that sine 30 is a half. So let's try cosine 30. So remember, cosine, if you're finding cosine of an angle, it is the square root of the right fingers, so the square root of the right. So I've got 3 fingers to the right over 2. So if you look down here on our, that's exactly what we've got. And if we were doing tan 30 degrees, remember it's the square root of the left fingers, which is 1, square root 1 over 10, which is square root 3. So you could simplify that to be 1 over square root 3, which is what they've got there. Okay, so let's try another one. Okay, so looking at my hand here, I have decided to put the 45 finger down, which means I'm going to calculate the 45 exact values, or I could say pi on a quarter, because that's the same. Okay, so if we look at sine 45 degrees, what it equals is it's always the square root of the left over 2. So if I have a look, I have his going left of the finger I have down, so it is the square root of 2 over 2, which we can see that is an option down here in our exact table. That's the exact value. If we're doing cosine, I'm going to say pi on 4 this time because it's the same as 45 degrees. We're going to do the square root of the left fingers, which is square root 2. So it's this, sorry, the square root of the right. Sorry, I wrote left and meant right. Sorry. Okay, so square root of the right over 2, which is square root 2 over 2, which we can see down because remember they're the same. And then obviously tan is pi on 4, or 45, is the square root of the left over the square root of the right, which is square root 2 over square root 2, equals 1, which is what it shows down there. Okay, this one I'm going to show you pi on 3, which is the same as 60 degrees. So remember the first finger's 0, second finger's 30, third one's 45, next one's 60, and that one's 90. So I'm putting the 60 down because I want to do sine pi on 3, which is the same as 60. So I know it's the square root of the left over 2. So I see I have 3 fingers to the left, so it's the square root 3 over 2. And that's the answer down in our exact values. So if I do cosine 60 degrees, it'd be the square root right over 2. So if I look here to the right, I just have 1 finger, so the square root of 1 over 2, and the square root of 1 is 1, so I get 1 over 2, which is what I get. And then tan pi on 3 is equal to square root left over square root right. So if we looked, we've got square root 3 fingers to the left and the square root of 1 to the right. So we get square root 3 on 1, which can be written as square root 3. Okay, and let's do the last one. Actually, I'm not going to do the last one because my I find it hard to put my little pinky down, but the last one's very easy because of the unit circle. If we remember, if we are at 90 degrees, we're up here, yeah, and 90 is the same as pi on 2, and we can see that sine 90, what's the y value up there? That's 1. Cosine 90, what's the y value there? Equals 0. So if you have tan 90, it would be the sine over cosine, which is 1 over 0, which you can't have, which is undefined. So that one's not too hard. That's like 0 degrees. You could probably already do those ones. But you can still use your finger. It'll still work. I just can't bend that one down. Okay, so once we essentially know all our answers in the first quadrant, we can get all the answers for any angle in the others. So now we know our exact values. We could get them for all the quadrants, and we just have to remember which ones are positive because they remain the same numbers but either negative or positive, and we'll use the cast to remember. We'll do a couple examples on the next page. Okay, so we've been asked to evaluate cos 150. So if I think of my unit circle, and I'll quickly draw that up. We've got 180 is over here. So 150 is going backwards 30 degrees. This is where 150 would be. If you were going, it'd be 150 degrees that way. So remember we said that it will be the same value as cosine 30, except it will be a negative because we know that only sine is positive in this quadrant. So really, you can essentially say that if you have to find if cos 150 degrees is equal to cos 180 minus 30, okay, which we know is equal to negative cos 30. So it's the same as cos 30 but negative. So you can then use your hand trick and you think, oh, I need the 30 degrees one. So using your cos rule, cos equals the square root of your right fingers over 2. So if I was doing this one, I've put my 30 degree finger down, and so I have cos 30 degrees equals the square root of 3 over 2. And if you go back and look at our exact values, that should be correct. Okay, I'm going to do another one. Evaluate sine 11 pi on 6. So if I think about my unit circle quickly to see where and think about where I am. So 11 pi on 6, that's just one short of being 2 pi. If you think 2 pi would be 12 pi on 6. So I'm just minus one little pi on 6 that way down here. And here's 11 pi on 6. Okay, is down that way. So if you were evaluating this, we could say that sine 11 pi on the 6 is equal to sine 2 pi minus pi on 6. Okay, and we can see down in this quadrant, only cosine is positive, so we know that's equal to the same as negative sine pi on 6. So it's the same as if we went up here, but it's the negative version. Okay, so now you have to then think about your hand, and we want pi on 6, which is actually sine 30, so I can use that one up again, the hand up here. We've got the 30 down, except the rule for sine is sine angle equals the square root of the left over 2. So in this example, I've got sine pi on 6 equals the square root of 1 on 2, which we can simplify to be 1/2. We check our exact values and we are correct. So you can just learn the exact values off by heart, or the hand trick can just make it easier. If you learn the hand trick, maybe when you're in the test, quickly draw out a table of values, write all your answers using your hand trick, and then you've got it. It's up to you. You need to work out what you think will be best. We'll do more of these in class to practice, but this obviously you can come back to and hopefully it can help.